Oh man, monkeypox over here, wildin'.
How many cases?
No, I was just saying because you're over here ooh-eyeing with that. So for 20th, I have Bournemouth, who automatically promoted from the championship last season. They also conceded the least amount of goals in the league. Their top scorer last season was Dominic Solanke with 29 goals. One of their other top performers, Philip Billing, had 10 goals and 10 assists. Bournemouth was also one of the most aggressive teams in the championship last season, so that could work to their favor in the Premier League. They've only made one major signing, and that's Marcus Tavernier, who had 5 goals and 5 assists for Middlesbrough last season. They're linked with Barcelona's keeper Neto. Apparently, they've already signed him. I'm not too sure about that yet. But overall, the squad doesn't look particularly that promising. I don't think there's been enough additions to the squad to actually have it survive. The gap between the championship and the Premier League is huge, and there's just not many Premier League type caliber players that I can see in this squad. Also, Dominic Solanke is their starting striker. At time. Fellas, have you ever heard of OneFootball? No? Well, let me tell you then. I've been using OneFootball since 2017 when I was a wee little sophomore, so trust me when I say this is the best app for football news and results. Follow your favorite clubs and national teams and know exactly when they're playing based on your time zone. You can even get live feeds for matches you couldn't watch at home. Sick of that pesky manager not performing? Well, luckily for you, OneFootball will make sure you're the first person to know when he's sacked. All you have to do is turn on notifications and boom, all the latest news for your club or even national team. I personally love this app because I can follow any and all leagues and competitions that I'm interested in. So that way I know all the future matchups coming up and maybe I can watch some and plan ahead. I can review all the results and even the stats of every single match that has been played and even the league table. And remember, this is all accessible on just one single app. And with OneFootball, you can even follow players. You can now also watch game highlights and even stream some matches live all across the world. And the best part about all of this, the app is completely free. So drop everything you're doing right now, click the link in the description, and download OneFootball to absolutely transcend your footballing experiences.
This year, I am holding a pen, so that means everything I say is just 50% more accurate, alright? So I'm going to come to my first prediction. This is probably one of our few agreements in this video. It's going to be Bournemouth at the bottom. Max pretty much covered everything, but yeah, the Cherries, I hope they survive. I actually do like their blue away shirt that Max hates for some reason, but, you know, each to their own. People have, you know, exquisite taste like myself. But yeah, the kits don't keep you up in the Prem, unfortunately. I really like their home shirt as well. So Bournemouth, I mean, you've done well in the kit department, but players-wise, team-wise, it's going to be a tough one to survive. So 19th, I feel like I've got to go bold. I've got to have some, you know, prediction like Burnley last year that I got right to go down. And I feel like it's not going to be all 3 promoted sides to just go straight back down to the championship. I have Leeds losing 2 of their best players, Calvin Phillips and Rafinha. Haven't really replaced them whatsoever. Their signings this year haven't really looked too promising. No Premier League proven players and their manager, which Max would probably know more about. Don't think he can pull off a miracle like last time unless they, you know, do some business in January or with the remaining time in this window pull something off. But with Leeds, it's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a big battle for them, and they're going to be well and truly in the bottom half of the table. And I've got them to go down. I hope they don't go down. I just don't think all 3 promoted sides are going to get relegated. It's just, you know, it's a gut feeling, and I got to trust it.
I mean, I went the same way. I don't think all 3 promoted teams are going to relegate because in 19th, I actually have Everton. Yeah, I think it's pretty bold. They lost Richarlison over the offseason, which is a huge loss, was a big part as to why they actually survived in the first place. I think he had 10 goals, 5 assists, and also he had the intensity that Everton lack already. I think that's going to be a huge loss. They haven't really done much in the transfer window. They brought in James Tarkowski, and I know you shouldn't take preseason that seriously, but losing 4-0 to Minnesota is really bad. Dominic Calvert-Lewin is still there. I think the problem with him, though, is there's not many creative assets to actually provide him the ball. Luka Dean left in January, and Damari Gray is pretty inconsistent. I know they've brought in Dwight McNeil, but I still feel like that's just not enough. So that's why I have Everton in 19th. I really don't have much belief in this team.
What about Big Dele Alli?
Big Delia, out of here.
I actually like where this is going because our predictions so far look like they're very different. So we're going to have very opposing outcomes by the end of the season, which is good. I'm going to jump straight into 18th, and that is New Boys Fulham. I have them just on the cusp. Just maybe they won't finish bottom like last time. I feel like they got a few decent signings in the window, but their squad's looking pretty thin, and you do need a lot of squad depth in the Premier League. Squad depth and quality to survive, and is Marco Silva going to do it? It's hard to say from his track record. It's not looking too good. They did sign pre-season Pirlo, Andreas Pereira. Bernd Leno's going to be in between the sticks, and Barbu's a brand new signing, so they do have a lot of gelling to do, but they haven't done the major spending they did last time they were in the Premier League. I think they'll give it a bit more of a go this time, and they won't completely finish bottom, but they'll miss the mark and be back down in the Championship next year.
Yeah, so I actually agree. 18th place Fulham. I feel like they'll improve upon, I guess, the last time they were in the Premier League. Alexander Mitrovic had 43 goals in 44 games. Also, Fulham scored 106 goals in the Championship. So I feel like this time around with that attack, they'll do just a bit better than 20th. I still don't think it's going to be enough to survive. There's a lot of transfers that they've made, like Brandon said before, but of course they have to mesh together, and it kind of gives me Aston Villa 2015 vibes. I guess another player to watch out for is Harry Wilson, who had 10 goals and a whopping 19 assists. And defensively, they still have the likes of Tosin Adorabioyo and also Anthony Robinson. We'll just have to see what happens there, but I think they just miss out on surviving. So outside of the relegation zone, those teams that will survive, I'm actually going pretty bold with Nottingham Forest for 17th. They promoted through the playoffs, had the second best defense, the third best attack. 21-year-old Brennan Johnson had 18 goals and 10 assists. I'm sure he's going to have some kind of impact going forward, but the attack has only gotten better. They purchased Taiwo Awoniyi, who had 15 goals in the Bundesliga last season, and also Jesse Lingard comes in for a free. He had 9 goals and 4 assists for West Ham.
Jay Lings, I'm a 30-year-old man and I do TikTok dances.
The defense is also strengthened quite a bit. They've also added Dean Henderson, who is a big part to Sheffield United staying up. There was unfortunately the loss of Jed Spence, who went off to Spurs, but Nottingham Forest have purchased Neco Williams. And for Fulham, in 3 appearances as a left back, he had 1 goal and 1 assist. So there's a little bit of promise there. It's still a very small sample, but at least there's something to work with there. And just in general, manager Steve Cooper works with a very high intensity, and I think that could fare pretty well in the Premier League.
Well, my 17th place is going to go to the Saints down south. Southampton, I think they're going to slip down, might get involved in an early relegation battle. Kind of like Fulham, but they've just had that Premier League experience over the years, and they've been in the Premier League for nearly over 10 years now. But this year, they've signed a couple of decent players for the future, but no one who's actually like Premier League proven. I think Hassan Hutel can do a decent job to keep them alive, but I feel like the teams around them just got so much better. Meanwhile, they kept James Ward-Prowse, but they never really added to their roster and gave a real X factor to their team. I know there's still a lot of this window to go. That's the kind of poison chalice with doing these predictions. But hey, we gotta do it before the season starts. And Southampton, for me, might have a tough time. And then just above the struggling Saints, for me, is the new boys, newly promoted Forest. I feel like everyone's kind of got a soft spot for them. They're back in the Premier League after 20 plus years, and it's just good to see Forest in the big time again, making some decent signings. Got a couple of X-Man United boys in there. Dean Henderson, I feel like could do a really good job in between the sticks. We've got Brennan Johnson, who I feel like is one of the most promising talents in the UK right now, and I'm just excited to see. I feel like when you get promoted in the Premier League and you haven't been up for so long, you kind of get that ace up your sleeve where it's like no one really knows the team, like no one really knows how they play, what their strongest points are, so they're kind of like the surprise package that are ready to stun the big boys. I feel like they're going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Brandon put Leeds in 19th. I've actually put them in 16th. They survived on the final day. Of course, as we've mentioned before, they lost Rafinha and they've also lost Calvin Phillips. And in response, with Jesse Marsch basically being in the same situation as he was in Leipzig last season, Leeds have basically turned into the 51st state of the USA by bringing in both Brendan Aronson and Tyler Adams. They've also brought in Rasmus Christensen, a very solid defender from RB Salzburg, Salzburg. Defensive midfielder Mark Roca from Bayern Munich, I'd say, is one of the more underrated signings. And they also got in Luis Sinisterra, which isn't exactly a Rafinha, but he's still a very solid player from Feyenoord. And Leeds still have the rest of their core willing to play at Jesse Marsch's intensity, and also, not to mention, they still have Patrick Bamford. If he stays healthy, I feel like Leeds can definitely stay up. For 15th, I actually have Southampton. I feel like they'll maybe just be a little higher than what Brandon says. I think I actually predicted them 15th last time too. This is just a team that basically does just enough to survive, and I think that'll basically be the same thing here.
But it looks at our predictions so far, it looks like we got a lot of different placings, so it's going to be interesting come the end of the season. As in 15th, I have the Bees.
Wait, I wasn't done. I wasn't done.
Oh.
As mentioned before, there's James Ward-Prowse, who has 10 goals, 5 assists. I'm sure he's going to whip in another 16 different free kicks this season. New signing Joe Arabo from Rangers had 8 goals and 4 assists, so at least there's a little bit of some creativity there. Also, Southampton have been adding some younger players. Sekou Mara from Bordeaux, who's just 19 years old and scored 6 goals for a terrible Bordeaux side last season. They've also added Romeo Lavia from Manchester City's U23s, but it will take some time for him to adapt to the Premier League game because he's never played a single senior match. And then you can't forget about some of the defenders as well, Livramento and Salisu. I would put them higher, but it is Red Bull Hasenhüttl we're talking about here, so yeah, 15th place.
Okay, well, I pretty much already said I have Brentford in 15th. I know the cliche thing to say about them is, yeah, they're going to have second season syndrome and all that, but they've kept pretty much the majority of their team together. I know they lost Christian Eriksen as well, but I don't really think they needed him all too much. I feel like the only way is up for Brentford, but just because, I don't know, the quality in the Premier League right now is just so high. It's going to be hard for them to climb the table, but another season in the Premier League, I think Brentford fans will take that. Just another year to establish their name as a top flight staple, and I really like what they got going on there. Moneyball FC got a decent feeling, but I don't think they're going to reach the heights they did last season.
Brandon pretty much said mostly everything. I think the one thing I would add is Christian Norgard and Ethan Pinnock were both very solid defenders last season, but I do feel like they'll slip a little bit from last season, so yeah, I put them 14th.
My 14th is my infamous Crystal Palace prediction of last season. If you know, you know. Yeah, Patrick Vieira has proved me wrong. I just feel like, you know, they're not going to be in a relegation battle. They're not going to push for the top 10. They've kept Zaha for the 10th consecutive summer in a row. Oh, they've lost Conor Gallagher. That is a big one. Could be in a bit of trouble there in the midfield department. They have replaced him with Czech Decore. Might take him a bit of time to adjust to the Premier League. However, that Conor Gallagher loss is going to be massive. We'll see how Patrick Vieira deals with that. They also have some decent options of firepower in attack like Mateta and Edouard. Can they combine together to score some goals and form a little strike partnership, or are they just going to fall by the wayside and, you know, one of them will take over the goal scoring duties? I guess we'll find out, but with Crystal Palace, kind of a mixed ball. All I know is that they won't go down and they're destined to stay up this time.
So 13th, I went with Wolves. I feel like there's not going to be much of an improvement from last season where they started out really well and then just collapsed. Jose Sa was huge for Wolves, but it comes to a point where he can only save so much, and the attack itself was really underwhelming. Wolves' top scorer was Raul Jimenez with just 6 goals, and right behind him was Hwang Hee-chan with 5. And in terms of transfers, Wolves haven't made many. They've added center back Nathan Collins, but that doesn't really contribute much to their attack, so I'm gonna have to say 13th. Not much really improves here.
Now in lucky number 13, I have a team that Max has in the relegation zone right now. The Toffees, Everton, I have a bit more faith in them this year. I don't think they're going to be stuck in that rut that they were. I know Richarlison's a big loss. Frank Lampard, I know they'd probably rather have him on the pitch instead of on the sideline. Dele Alli's coming in there, and I feel like he might have a little bit of a career revival. Tarkovsky's a smart signing at the back. They've also got, I don't know. I don't know why I've got them this high. I think their quality and Premier League experience, let's say, will get them over the line in a couple games. It's going to be scrappy. It's not going to be pretty, but I think Everton won't have a relegation scare, but they're not really going to do anything either. They need a couple more big signings, and Goodison Park, it might be another year of heartbreak, devastation, and just overall misery, which kind of just sounds like my love life. Now we're getting through to this category of mid-table, 12th to 8th, where I feel like all these teams could shuffle around realistically. I have the Seagulls, Brighton, another Southside team are in there, and they finished 9th last year, kind of overperformed, had a decent end to the season and strung a couple of wins together, and pushed themselves into the top half of the table. You'd think that they might be pushing for Europe now, getting their goals a little bit higher, but I've got them down in the bottom half of the table this time around. They're on the verge of losing Marco Correa, which I feel like was their player of the season, but is one of the most underrated talents in the Premier League. They also did keep a hold of Neil Maupay, who's been my fantasy Premier League staple striker for the past 2 seasons, and Graham Potter is also still at the helm. So a lot of things have, stayed the same, I guess, but are they going to replace the loss of Marco Correa? That's a big question mark. There's plenty to get excited about in this Brighton team, but they just might fall by the wayside and not reach those dazzling heights that they did last year.
So 12th, I actually also have Brighton. I think on top of Marco Correa possibly leaving, Yves Bissouma is now gone, and he was a huge part of Brighton. I think Graham Potter still does well with the team he has, but I think they slipped down from that historic 9th place finish that they had last season. For 11th place, I have Leicester City. Understandably, they were very underwhelming last season. Wesley Fofana was injured during pre-season, so it just ignited Leicester panicking to buy a defender, and it gets really bad when you're throwing money at Jan Vestergaard. But there still were many great attacking performances during last season. Jamie Vardy had 15 goals, although he is getting much older, so it is a question of whether or not he'll continue with that goal scoring form, or maybe someone like Patson Daka fills in. James Maddison, I feel like no one really talked about him last season, but he had 12 goals and 8 assists. Harvey Barnes, 6 goals and 10 assists, but James Justin will be back in the swing, and so will potentially Wesley Fofana. He's been linked with Chelsea, but we're not too sure there. I would say Leicester City bounces back into even maybe the top 7, but they just sold Kasper Schmeichel, and they also really haven't made any moves in the transfer window.
It is Wolves in 11th, just to miss out on the top 10. I'm pretty sure I predicted them similar to this last year. Another season under Bruno Lage belt. He's got a pre-season behind him. He's had some, not really too many summer signings besides Nathan Collins, of course, but he has kept a hold of Ruben Neves. Jimenez is back, and also Neto, which I feel like was sorely missed last year. So I feel like the Portuguese merchants are gonna, still be an issue for the top sides. They're gonna be a team that really no one wants to play. They're just gonna be a handful to manage on a match day. Wolves, you're just missing out on the top 10 for me. Now this is where it gets interesting. We have reached the top 10, the second half of the predictions, and it's either our predictions are going to get very similar or they're going to vary. And right now, starting off the top 10 is the Magpies, the richest club in the world. Newcastle in 10th for me. A lot of people have them higher. I'm starting to factor in that the January transfer window, they could also splash the cash a bit, but for right now, I don't see them, even though they had that amazing form towards the second half of the season. I don't really feel like they're going to crack the European places this season just yet. I don't think their time is now. They've investment in the likes of Sven Botman, which was a much needed defender. Bruno Guimaraes is probably one of their standout players. A marquee man in the middle of the park who I feel like could just explode in this Newcastle side. Trippier's back as well. So a lot of positives are going on for Newcastle right now. I might regret having them this far down the table, but again, they haven't really made the signings, but they'll have a decent season and be happy with a 10th place finish.
So my 10th place was Aston Villa. I thought they were pretty disappointing last season, but to be fair, if you only take the time when they were managed by Gerrard, they would have finished 9th. They've made some quality signings, including the likes of center back Diego Carlos and defensive midfielder Boubacar Kamara. There's also the permanent signing of Philippe Coutinho, so I'm sure that's going to help a lot. He had 5 goals and 3 assists, and I think 16 starts. Ollie Watkins last campaign had a pretty decent season with 11 goals, and if Danny Ings can rediscover some of his Southampton form, things could get a bit interesting. And I think you should also watch out for Jacob Ramsey, who had 6 goals and an assist. So, Brandon, where'd you put Palace? 14th?
Oh, no. No way you have him in the top 10.
No, I have belief in Crystal Palace. I think, again, they're one of the most exciting teams going forward under Patrick Vieira. You have the likes of Wilfred Zaha, scored 14 goals. I think the striking position lacks a bit, but you still have the likes of also Michael Olise, who had 5 assists. Eberechi Eze is going to be back. And also Joachim Andersen, a signing made last season. I thought was a very underrated signing, and he's performed really well in that Palace defense. It's a solid team overall. I really do think they're a top half team.
This is how you know Max has turned into a football hipster.
I'm not even a hipster. No, listen. I know Conor Gallagher's also left. That's a huge loss, but I do have a lot of belief in Cheick Doucouré. He's somewhat of a Tanguy Ndombele if he wasn't lazy, so as long as it stays that way, I think Palace are ones to look out for again. All right, motherfucker, let me see your knife.
Up in 9th for me, sneaking into the top 10. I don't know, after Max has said things about them previously in the video, don't know why I've got them this high. It is Leicester City. Yes, they've just lost Kasper Schmeichel,
Brendan, you put Leicester.
They've kept a lot of the same team, but team that they have kept a Premier League quality of ballers, you know, Tielemans. Vardy might be getting on a bit, but James Maddison is in there still. They've got Soyuncu. Wesley Fofana returns, which is a massive one for me, considering they didn't have him last season. Something that Max didn't touch on, and it's probably a better position to put Leicester here instead of Crystal Palace, is that they don't have European football to focus on, like they did last time, with not only the Europa League, but the Conference League that they got roped into. So no Thursday night trips to Uzbekistan anymore. They solely just have the Premier League to focus on. Let's hope they don't lose any star players throughout this summer window or January. Otherwise, this prediction is going to come back to bite me. All right, 8th. We're getting into the serious stuff now. We're getting into European contenders. And in 8th, I've got Aston Villa. Yes, led by Stevie G. They had a pre-season down in Australia. They came all the way across the globe. I feel like they're going to make up for last season. Everyone had high expectations like this. I believe even Max had them in 8th last year. A lot of the players they signed had a great transfer window, but didn't really perform on the pitch. So I feel like this is their year to shine. They've had some decent additions like Kamara and Diogo Carlos in the back line. Some big signings that could really flourish in the Premier League. I feel like this is the year that they can start challenging for European places again, and they're just probably one of the most exciting teams to watch in the Premier League right now, especially with Coutinho back as well. So I'm expecting some fantasy points and some outside the box bangers.
For 8th, I actually went with your 10th place, which is Newcastle.
No! I was told.
But since the appointment of Eddie Howe, I know I've mentioned this at least 10 times now.
Yeah, and if...
No, go on, finish it. Go on, no, go.
If I had 1 million subscribers, I'd have a gold plaque in my room.
Please clap.
If you take the second half of the season from last campaign, they would have been 3rd. So that's why I'm pretty confident to put them all the way up in 8th, even though it does feel like it's that period where they're like Manchester City in their early days. They're trying to find their consistency, and they're around that 8th to 10th place. They have Callum Wilson, and if he can stay healthy, he scored 8 goals last season. I'm sure he can very much score more. Alan Saint-Maximin, I feel like, is a player that we haven't touched upon, and he's literally their key player. Despite having 5 goals and 5 assists, the man averages the most dribbles per 90 of quite literally any player on this earth. And funnily enough, right, Joe Linton, who used to be a clown signing, has become a pretty good box-to-box midfielder. And he'll be paired with Bruno Guimaraes, who has been fantastic since joining the Magpies. And I really do think that they could potentially contend for a Conference League position, but for right now, let's just stay outside of Europe. For 7th, I might annoy Brandon with this one. I went Manchester United.
This is where it gets interesting.
With the appointment of Erik ten Hag, there's actual hope for United fans after one of the worst finishes in their club's history. During the preseason, there was a lot of promise that we saw, but to be fair, it is preseason. Cristiano Ronaldo was exceptional for United with 18 goals. It's unfortunate that he doesn't really want to play with you guys anymore.
But Max, if you count our preseason games as Premier League wins, we'd be on top of the table right now.
But if my grandma had wheels, she'd be a boy. Bruno Fernandes, for how bad he was, still had 10 goals and 6 assists. That's still at least something to build upon. United have brought in Lisandro Martinez to hopefully improve the abysmal defending that we saw last season. The addition of Christian Eriksen as well will add a little bit of some creative flair. Ten Hag is a brilliant tactician, but we won't see the fruits this season. I really think this will be more of a transitional period for Manchester United, kind of like Arsenal. If my grandmother had the wheels, she'd be a bike.
Yes.
If my Italian team had good players, we'd be in the World Cup.
Yes. Fuck you. I thought I was quite the depressed Manchester United fan, but you know, clearly a neutral has no faith in us whatsoever. Fortunately for us, I don't have us down in 7th. But who I do have in 7th is West Ham, which I thought me and Max would probably agree on both. But the Hammers did have such a great campaign last time around, had a deep Europa League run, still kept up their Premier League form, and have kept a lot of their star power, like Declan Rice. Ben Rama, I feel like, is going to have a really explosive campaign this time around. You've got Antonio up top, and they've recently signed the Italian stallion himself from Sassuolo, Gianluca Scamacca, who is going to be a really interesting one to see if he's going to factor into David Moyes' plans. He's going to come off the bench. Is he going to start up top with Antonio? I'm really fascinated to see how he does in the Premier League as well. We might as well keep the depression going with Manchester United in 6th. I think it's going to be a transitional year. 10 years after Sir Alex Ferguson has left and we're still going through transitional periods, so it's been a struggle. It has been a major clear out in the summer. We got rid of Pogba, Mata, Lingard, Matic is out. There's been a mass exodus of players, so hopefully it's a new era. It's a refreshed squad. Like every summer, we've been linked with players, left, right, and center. Whether they want to come to the club is a different story. Whether the board actually take action, that's a whole nother thing in itself. But fun fact for you guys, a Maqwell exclusive. I actually have money on Frankie de Jong not to sign for Manchester United. I am confident in this club's incompetence not to sign him. I don't condone gambling or betting. Just wanna...
I do. So 6th place, I went with West Ham. Jared Bowen was fantastic last season with 12 goals and 10 assists, and West Ham have managed to maintain him. And the same thing with, it appears, Declan Rice. I haven't heard any rumors about him moving anywhere, so it looks good for West Ham there. They've also added a new defender in Nayef Aguirre from Rennes, and now Alphonse Areola is on a permanent deal. We already mentioned about Gianluca Scamacca, which is a great addition, knowing that Antonio can be, in the words of Jem, dead food. So yeah, I think in terms of the depth, it's looking good, and David Moyes is going to have another great season. And 5th place
Oh, okay, sorry. I thought I was going to start. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
How do you say number 5 in Italian?
Numero 5.
I think it's safe to say that Chelsea's defense is going to be as solid as ever. They lost Rudiger, but somehow managed to get Kalidou Koulibaly for just a little over 30 million. I don't know how, but I still have my doubts with Chelsea's attack. It really says a lot when Mason Mount is your top scorer with 11 goals. Kai Havertz and Timo Werner just haven't really been reliable in terms of finishing. And Chelsea haven't really done much to improve their attack, or at least the attempts that they've tried have always been cut by Barcelona. Raheem Sterling has come in, but I wouldn't say he's much of a reliable finisher, so I don't really know what to say about Chelsea's attack. I feel like it's just going to be about the same as last season. But I think in general, that's just Thomas Tuchel's philosophy. Great defense and just let the attack vibe, to be honest. But I think this time around it hurts Chelsea quite a bit more, and yeah, I think they finished outside the top 4.
Yeah, Stamford Bridge had a bit of a turbulent summer, a lot of drama off the pitch. Lukaku leaving, which is a big one. I feel like that was their main source of goals. Obviously didn't have the season that everyone was expecting, but now he's back at Inter, and Chelsea are lacking a presence up top. I know they got Werner, Havertz, Mount. No real major striker like they had back in the days, like a Drogba, Diego Costa. Sterling's a great addition as well, but I feel like he's more of a, cut inside, provide chances kind of player. But for me, they just miss out on Champions League football. Top 4 time, baby. It's top 4 time.
Go on, Brandon. Say it. I know what you're going to say. I know what you're going to say.
Oh, you do know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, I know what you're going to say.
In 4th place, returning to the Champions League.
Woo! Let's go, baby!
Is Antonio Conte's Spurs. Had a remarkable summer by Spurs' standards. They have kept Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, probably one of the 2 best attackers in the Premier League, if not the world right now. And they've also added some brilliant, just beautiful Conte signings to the lineup, like Ivan Perisic, Yves Bissouma, who I feel like is going to be a box-to-box beast for Spurs. Conte, in his first full pre-season, we saw the videos that came out. He is making sure they're fit for this upcoming season. Kulusevski, who had a brilliant campaign last time around for his first stint in the Premier League, is just going to elevate to that next level. I know I'm hyping them up right now, but I just feel like it's Spurs. I don't know. Spurs, they're going to do something Spursy. They won't challenge for the title, but I feel like they'll be comfortable in the top 4. Alongside a top 4 finish, I feel like they could go pretty far in the Champions League as well.
4th place to start off the top 4 for me is Arsenal. We're back in the homeland, baby. We have the likes of Bukayo Saka coming off a great season. Same with Emile Smith-Rowe. Same with Gabriel Martinelli, who I'm hoping improves his finishing. Martin Odegaard was a joy to watch last season, and I can't wait to see more now that Gabriel Jesus has joined the club. The midfield is a little bit questionable with Thomas Partey and a few other options like Xhaka and El Neni. Not exactly players you can put all your trust into, but I still feel at least relatively comfortable there. And then, of course, you have the defense, which gets gets more and more solid by the years. William Saliba is going to have more chances, and we also purchased Alexander Zinchenko, so no longer do I have to see Nuno Tavares play for at least a year, that is. But I think in terms of the depth and in terms of the quality we have here, I think we've really truly achieved what is known as trusting the process. I do think we could actually finish 4th here. But into my 3rd place team, where Brendan actually put in 4th, I have Tottenham. I genuinely think Tottenham have a decent chance at even 2nd place. They look really strong, and Antonio Conte is a fantastic tactician. Son Heung-min had 23 goals. He's only going to continue that form as he drifts more into that number 9 role. Harry Kane had 17 goals. Dejan Kulusevski had 5 goals and 8 assists in just 14 starts. And also, Tottenham have provided Conte with money. I guess they actually saw what happened in Inter and tried to avoid that. The likes of Richarlison, Yves Bissouma, Ivan Perisic has joined Tottenham as well. Very solid players there. And even Jed Spence could even make a difference for this squad. I really do think Tottenham have improved quite enough to be placed into 3rd here.
So Max, you want to know why I was maybe a bit late to recording, up late last night? I was actually watching the new Arsenal documentary, Arsenal All or Nothing.
Don't spoil it. I haven't watched any of it.
No, I won't. Should I spoil it? I should spoil it.
No, fuck.
I'll say that they didn't qualify for the Champions League.
Okay.
They didn't win a trophy. That's another spoiler.
Right,
Aubameyang left. Could be another spoiler. I don't know. Maybe I just spoiled the whole thing for you. Lost hours of sleep over Arsenal All or Nothing. I've also lost hours of sleep predicting them in 3rd. For some reason, that is controversial. I don't know why. Because Arsenal this year, for me anyway, I don't know. I'm bullish on Arsenal. I feel like, I don't know, they could do really well. Smart signings, they've got a decent play style, they've trusted the process, and I feel like the players can really flourish, shine. They don't have Champions League football to worry about. They are in the Europa League, which might provide with a couple of hurdles along the way, but, the Gunners. The Gunners are gunning. I'm going to say maybe they could push for the title, but not actually win it, obviously, but be involved in the race, at least be an outside shot, and of course, I'm a neutral, so I got a bit more faith in them than Max does.
Yeah. Alright, what's your 2nd place, Brandon?
Here we go. Well, you know what? It's not a smart choice, let's just say. But I feel like I don't want to be the same as everyone else. I want to switch things up. And I don't want this team to win 3 Premier Leagues in a row.
Did you call me the hipster?
I've gone for big old Manchester City in 2nd. Therefore, Liverpool winning the title. Max has obviously got it the other way around, just because we know how boring and predictable Max can get at times.
I'm just saying the facts here.
Liverpool to win the league. I don't think Man City are going to win 3 in a row, even though they probably should. I think what they should do, actually, is focus on the Champions League. They have the squad to focus on multiple competitions. They have the depth. They've signed Calvin Phillips. They've got Terminator, Erling Haaland. We'll see how long it really takes him to adjust to the Premier League, if he's going to be as lethal as everyone expects him to be. But that's it. Man City 2nd. Liverpool to win the league. Max, go for it.
So I have Liverpool 2nd, Manchester City 1st. I feel like a lot of people have it this way. I mean, yeah, it's predictable, but I don't know. You just look at Manchester City's squad. Even though they let go of 2 of their really good players, there's still a lot of depth throughout that entire squad. They sub on basically the Avengers every single game. And also, Liverpool lost Sadio Mane. But I think Manchester City are definitely favorites here. They have the depth. They have Erling Haaland, who's basically scoring goals every single game. And I know it's going to take some time for him to actually adapt to the Premier League. And also, there's the fitness issues there. But there's also Julian Alvarez. He's been pretty solid so far. So yeah, Manchester City champions of the Premier League once again. So those are our Premier League predictions for 22-23. Have a great look at them. Judge them with all your might. And make sure you check out Brandon's channel. It'll be down in the description below and probably in the annotations. But of course, a massive shout out to all our patrons, including Janos Balash, Spirit WNT, Florian Lengo, Milioa009, Alex Rod, Alta, Amin Suarmez, Arnolfo Martinez Jr., Celoto, Daniel Ortiz, Darkwolf476, Francisco Hernandez, Hashim, Jax206, Juan Leras, Kev FM, Mika Deichmeister, Nguyen Din Mintang, Parafocus, Rory Byrne, The Motor Drive, Tomicus, Triple GK, Vanilla Mexican 17, Victor, Ariel Floor, Chris Damasceno, Declan Malloy, Emmett Shea, Lewis, Jordan C, Mohammed Al-Bokhail, MX Weeb, Patrick Barley, President Pulsek, Tom Little, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to join the Patreon, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow my Twitter if you want, follow my Instagram if you'd like, follow my TikTok, trying to get to 15,000 there, and of course, you can follow my semi-active Twitch. But until then, I'll see you guys.